There's a system behind YouTube. If you can just lock in for 15 minutes, you're going to completely transform your business.
That's Saf, the content genius behind Ali Abdaal, one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in the world. In this episode, he reveals the exact system Ali Abdaal used to scale to 6.5 million subscribers. What's the 4 elements of a perfect hook?
You've brought people in, you've built the stakes, you've opened the curiosity loop, you've added the and now we're going straight into the video. That's a banging hook.
That's genius. Why the biggest entrepreneurs in the world are going all in on YouTube.
One of the clients I work with, second video we made for him, it went viral. He had 30,000 leads coming per month to his business.
30,000 leads.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue.
That's crazy. CTR, ABD. What's the highest leverage of those?
I think the highest leverage out of all of those is your...
How often should I upload videos on YouTube?
If you posted a YouTube video, you would be able to change your life.
Why everyone quits working for Ali Abdaal? Why did you leave Ali Abdaal? And why does everyone leave Ali Abdaal?
So I think probably the honest answer is...
I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe if you do, and let's dive in. Let's start at that first day working for Ali Abdaal. What happens when you walk in the door of the office or his home, is it, that you work from?
Yeah, we were working from his home near Regent's Park, and I was expecting an office, but it's just this humongous flat. And I remember walking in through the front door and they were like, "Can you take your shoes off?" I was like, "Oh, sure." And I take my shoes off and someone's actually coming out of the kitchen with their coffee and they're going in towards like the home office. And sure enough, you walk in over there, Ali's got his like massive softbox set up, he's got his standing desk and everything, and he turns around and goes, "Hi," and he goes back to like recording his videos. And that was like our first interaction. Yeah, it was super wholesome.
Cool. And what was your kind of remit when you're coming in to work for Ali? What was your first role?
So I was hired as a video editor, and I was going to be the second video editor for the main channel. But on my first day, I was sat down by Angus, who's the general manager for Ali. And he says, "I've got some good news and I've got some bad news." And this was within like an hour of like walking into the office. And he says, "The bad news is our head video editor has stepped down and he's resigned. The good news is you are now the head video editor and the next video is coming out in like 6 days." And I was like, right, okay. But the twist is I've never been a video editor professionally before this point. And I, at that point, only video edited for myself and for my own YouTube videos. So this is the first time where my videos were going to get millions of views. And so I was like stressed to make sure I did a really good job for him.
At that point, like, how many subscribers is he on?
So Ali at that point is on 3 million subscribers.
Yeah. And today he's on
6.5.
6.5. And you've basically worked with him through that period of growth. I'd love to kind of like unpack for someone listening to this who sees Ali's channel as this kind of amazing thing, 6+ million subscribers, super engaged audience, publishing books, a really powerful business behind him, and it's all powered really from that YouTube channel. I'd love to take people behind the scenes in this podcast and give them an insight into what it actually takes to create a YouTube channel that's that successful. What does the process look like on that first day, first week, and how does it work each week to output these videos?
Yeah, so Ali's done a really good job of bringing together people and arranging them in a system to be able to churn out YouTube videos while still being like the key person of influence in front of the camera. And he's definitely leaned into his advantages, which is teaching topics around productivity and investing and now financial freedom. Quite unusually, Ali's YouTube team is quite big. Mm-hmm. And people are always surprised with how many people work on the team and are behind the content. He's got a number of video editors that he works with. A lot of them are overseas on full-time retainers, but we have really good relationships with them and they're almost like they're in the office. They're so good. But then we also have content execs, social media experts, the general manager, Angus, who's like across a number of different things. And then there's a commercial team, which also informs the content team. And it's like this flywheel where the organic content powers the courses and the courses fund the content. And that's what creates this. It's a very natural ecosystem for him to create that content. I mean, Ali's channel has gone through different phases and he's definitely really, in my opinion, pioneered that talking head format. He started out with the medicine content and then he went into sort of studying and then into productivity and now into financial freedom. And I think part of the reason that he's so big today is that he continues to innovate at each point in time and he continues to reinvent himself. And most importantly, the audience he acquired in the early days in like 2017, 2018, they have now grown up and they've graduated from uni, they're young professionals and he's having to change his content and tailor it towards those people. So he's growing with his audience rather than staying stuck with what used to work.
How does he decide that he's going to make a video? Is that something that is very much him, and he's like walking around and he's got an idea and then he adds it to a list? Or does it come from the team? We really think you should make a video around this topic. Like, yeah, how does that work?
I think a lot of people will be surprised at how chaotic it is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I remember thinking on my first day joining that it was going to be this well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happens on time. There is a process for everything, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
A lot of the ideas Ali will have after having a conversation with another YouTuber, or he has a specific angle he wants to go after, he will log those ideas inside of Notion. But at the same time, the team will be coming up with ideas and they'll be giving them to him. And most importantly, we'll be coming up with a title, thumbnail, and hook. And that will be the pre-qualifier for if that YouTube video is going to fly. So my friend Tintin, who was the channel manager at that time, and that was primarily his job, which was managing what are the video ideas that Ali wants to make and what are the video ideas that the audience wants, or what insights a team has on videos that could do well, and how can we bring them together into a strategy that works with sponsored deadlines and Ali's energy and heavy lift versus low lift videos.
If I'm wanting to crush it on YouTube and have this YouTube channel, share my ideas with the world, and then create a thriving business on the back end, it sounds like the first step is basically logging my ideas. So whenever I have them, like having an easy place that I can log ideas in Notion. And then equally, if I've got a team, they can also suggest ideas. What happens next? Are they kind of reviewed on a weekly basis and then approved and then moved to like script writing? What does that look like? And you mentioned title and hook and thumbnail. Is there like a process that comes from the idea?
There's a system behind YouTube, and I would say the system is like a non-negotiable today.
Yeah.
Maybe a few years ago, you'd get away with like creating videos and hoping it would stick. But without a system, there's no way you can stay consistent with doing the videos and staying on the right path. But if we take it from the idea, which is what we start off with, if you have an idea, you'd want to qualify if that idea is big enough to make a YouTube video about, and are you the best person to make that YouTube video?
Interesting.
So I would be looking across other outlier videos across other channels to see how they've performed. I would look at competitors in a niche and what they're making videos about. I would also look at the comments. You can use Google Trends research as well. It also helps to be a consumer of YouTube. And when you're consuming YouTube content every single day, you have an idea of the things which people are interested in. To give you an example, it was pretty novel when James Clear talked about systems. So you fall to the level of your systems rather than rise to the level of your goals. And that was like a mind-blowing moment for everyone in the productivity sphere. But this is kind of common knowledge now for the last couple of years. And so something that I've been seeing coming up through like the ideas ranks is the idea of setting constraints rather than creating systems. And constraints actually help you to execute in the first place. And it's really helpful to have constraints. You can find freedom through constraints. So this is a video idea from a much smaller channel. It's been a massive outlier. I remember seeing it for the first time and saying, Ali, I think we should make this video. I think you should credit the guy, but I'm sure you've got a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
So that's gone into the idea bank. So that's just an example of how we would put together these ideas.
Interesting.
But to really qualify it, you want to make sure that the TAM for that video is quite high. And before you even get to the point where you're filming it, the filters you want to take it through are title, thumbnail, your packaging, and then a hook. And if you have a really compelling hook, it's often going to inform the direction of that video and the talking points you're going to hit. Because in the hook, you set up the promise, you set up the value. And so it's going to be a really big, bold promise. You're going to have retention pieces in there. You're going to build on the speaker's credibility. And then you're going to make sure that the talking points afterwards hit on that.
Is there like an idea that Ali's had recently, or you've had recently, that you could just talk me through how I verify? Like you said, outliers, and you said TAM. How would we actually practically do that? And is there like a practical example?
Yeah. Do you want me to pull out my laptop?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's literally do it. Yeah, let's do it.
The original title for this video was How I Use AI to Solve My Biggest Life Problems. When we were looking at this title, we were being very critical. Like, what are the reasons why this might not work? What are ways that we could increase the value proposition of this video? How can we demonstrate more proof of work? And we ended up trying, like, if you look at this page, there's like loads of different titles, and we're like changing very tiny words to see if we can simplify the concept, how can we make the value proposition bigger. And the one that we landed on was, I used AI as my life coach for 365 days. Here's what I learned.
Interesting.
And the way we landed on that was by looking at other videos that had done well And there was a video from Matt Diavella where he did it for journaling. And it was like a top-down shot. And it was like, I tried journaling or bullet journaling for 365 days. This is what happened. And so we wanted to build an idea or a format that had done already very well, but bring it into the AI space. And from observations, a lot of the AI videos out there weren't doing that well already because a lot of people were just creating quick tips, new tools, comparisons, lots of doom and gloom, and it can be very saturating. But this was an angle that we decided Ali could definitely lean into. He's got the credibility of having used it for that time or longer.
Yeah.
And then being able to go through the talking points and here's what he actually learned.
Yeah.
And so in that video, he had like prompts that people could try out. He actually went through and did like a therapy session in real time, and he was very happy to be vulnerable and open up. And this video performed much better than we had expected for it.
Interesting. So the original idea, just say that again.
The original idea was how I use AI to solve my biggest life problems.
Okay. So what you've done with the title there is really interesting because you've basically studied like a format that's done well for a different topic and basically communicates that someone's done a lot of work and you're going to get the condensed answer of 365 days of work in like 10 minutes. So that's like partly just optimizing the packaging first and coming up with like a really optimized title. But then the thing you said around the TAM stuff, how would you have validated that there's enough interest in that topic at the moment? You would have just gone, oh, AI is kind of trending and AI coaching is trending, or that kind of thing?
For this particular video, I believe we had a sponsor.
Okay, interesting.
And we had an AI sponsor. And so it was like, how can we make the best video possible for the audience while keeping in mind the sponsor for that video? And so that was the constraint that we were working with. And it's like, what's the biggest TAM, biggest idea that we can make around that? So keyword research definitely plays a part. Looking at outlier videos and using a tool like 1 of 10 helps you to qualify certain formats that are doing really well. And so using a combination of those two things, but also like even doing research on Reddit and places like that, you can start to see what gets traction, or even on Twitter. And so bringing all of these different things together, it helps to inform a direction for where you want to take that content. And then quite often, once you've done all of that, you can review it with a fresh set of eyes. You can work with a second strategist. You can come together and you're just trying to tear apart the title and the thumbnail to get to a point where it's like, okay, I would actually really click on that. It's surprising how often people put out YouTube videos and they wouldn't even click on it themselves. Yeah. And that's actually a really good filter for whether you should make that thing in the first place or just spend more time on it. You're going to spend like a week editing it. You have to show up in front of camera. There's so much work that goes into it. So you want to make sure you do it right without being crippled by perfectionism, of course.
We've got the idea. We validated that we're happy to do it. We've come up with the title, the thumbnail. Just quickly, 1 out of 10, that's a tool that does what?
Yeah, 1 of 10 is a tool that helps you to understand for a given YouTube video, what is its outlier score? And it's going to look at the average views that video gets on the channel. Then it's going to compare it to that specific video. And so relative to its baseline performance, how much did it overperform by? Yeah. So it could be a 2x outlier, which is like double what you'd typically expect, or a 10x outlier, or a 100x. And so you might find a 100x outlier on a really tiny channel. And it was their 4th video, it's absolutely blown up and it was on a topic which no one's made a video about. That's a really strong signal. Yeah. And so there's a Chrome extension that you can install at home. And as you're passively consuming YouTube on your browser, you'll start to see ideas that do well, don't do well. YouTube surfaces loads of titles and thumbnails on the homepage, and some are going to catch your eye. Yeah. And like, why did that catch my eye? Oh, it happens to be an outlier as well. Let's double click into that. Maybe I can be inspired and we can use that for a video later. Yeah. So like you build up a bank and like a back catalog of ideas.
So we've got those bits. What comes next? The hook or?
Yes, the hook comes next. So the hook it's really important in your hook that you're delivering on the value proposition of that video. So if you've said, I've used AI as a life coach for 365 days, here's what I learned. It's really, really important that in your hook, you actually reinforce that you did use AI for 365 days. So you have to work sometimes with what you've got, or if you're willing to put in the work to demonstrate that proof of work. Lots of B-rolls of you using it in different places. Maybe there is like a stack of journals or something where you've taken your notes from AI into that. Or a time lapse. There are different ways that you can show that you've actually done the work. A lot of big creators, what they do is they'll sometimes use the thumbnail shot and they'll directly make that the opening shot of the hook in the first place. I think Nico does that with some of his thumbnails and hooks. And the reason he does that is to deliver on the promise. Like, no, I've actually done the thing. And trust on YouTube can be quite low because people just like clickbait and bring you in. So you want to make sure that you reinforce, like you're actually going to get the thing that you asked for. And this is what this video is about. This is the value you're going to get at the end of it. and this is why you should stick around. And there's like different retention pieces you can put in to make sure people stick around.
So that's just delivering on the promise, literally probably saying the title to confirm that you're in the right place and that's what you're getting, showing the outcome if you talked about the outcome. Anything else I should do with the hook?
Yeah, so with the hook, I like to script my hooks. The hooks are so important. It's really worth taking time to script the hook. You're like, after you've done the hook, if you wanted to freestyle your talking points, because it's organic, it's natural, it's authentic, you want to storytell, great. But the hook is so important, it's worth at least having a scripted hook to try, and then you can do one from the heart on the day. And so that's always been my recommendation for people I work with. When I'm writing the hooks, I try and do it one sentence at a time. The reason I do that is because there are different ways of ordering and structuring your hook, and some of them is like a 1 + 1 = 3 moment if you put it together in the right way. But most importantly, if you have a line-by-line hook and you remove one sentence, that sentence shouldn't be redundant. It should be a critical part of that hook. And so sometimes if I'm being ruthless, I'll be removing sections from the hook because I know that's where retention's the highest. And if I don't need it, let's see if we can remove it. And so by the end of this exercise, you might have 5-6 sentences where it's like, oh my God, that's a banging hook. You've brought people in, you've built the stakes, you've opened the curiosity loop, you've added the credibility, you've reinforced the retention pieces, and now we're going straight into the video. And you can't take anything out because if you do, the whole hook falls apart.
What were those 5 things you just said very quickly?
It's like the credibility, the value proposition, retention pieces, why that person should stick around, opening the curiosity loop. Sometimes it'll be like, look, to answer this question, we first need to figure out X. And it's like, oh, wait, okay, fine, let's figure out X first. And we're going to get to the other thing at the end of the video. And so that's where you start off and that's how you build your story and that's how you set the context. And one of the videos I've made with one of my clients, we tried something like, look, if you can just lock in for 15 minutes, you're going to completely transform your business or like you're going to be able to become a millionaire. If you can't just lock in 15 minutes and take some notes on this, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And it's like that
Simon Squibb, yeah.
Yeah, Simon Squibb's done that. One of my friends, Micaiah, did that in one of his videos. And it's working surprisingly well. And the things that work tend to change over time. But the bar for what makes a good hook is only going up and up. And like incorporating more of these pieces into your hook are great ways to ultimately make a better video. I don't think it's hacky or scammy. It is if you don't deliver on that. But by having these filters as you go through your hook and you polish that hook, it then sets the direction for the rest of that video. It's quite hard to go wrong. You got the title, you got the thumbnail, you got the hook. Now, how do you deliver on that? By the end of the video, you have to reverse engineer how you deliver it. Oh, okay, great. We can do it in 3 steps. I can share my screen. We can talk about this. There's a case study. I did this with somebody else. Let's put that into the video. And suddenly you've got this really, really, really good video.
Quick one. If you're enjoying this episode with Saf, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It helps us more than you would know to secure bigger and better entrepreneurs, marketers, and content creators and share lots of value with you. So if you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe. And now let's get back into it. So on that video that we just talked about with Ali, what roughly we'd be doing there?
For the hook.
For hook, credibility, promise, retention.
I might need to remind myself what the hook was. Thing is, working with Ali is like sometimes we'll give him the hook. He's like, I just want to do the hook I want to do because it's vibes. Ali's unfair advantage is that he's so charismatic.
Yeah.
He almost doesn't need to put in as much work with the hook because people want to pay attention anyway. And so it's a bit of a red herring. So as much as he tries to tell him, like, you could get way better results. Oh yeah, would you mind playing it?
All right, so for the last 18 months, I've been using various AI tools to act as a personal life coach. I was skeptical.
So he basically very quickly says, for the last 18 months, I've been using AI as a life coach.
Initially, and I had a lot of reservations about it, but the results have really surprised me in a good way, and that's why I continue to use it like that today. And so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I've been using AI as a personal life coach. We're going to start with a conceptual.
So then he confirms, I'm going to show you how I've been using it as a life coach.
Overview of how to think about using AI as your personal life coach. And then in the second part of the video, I'm going to share the workflows and the tools and the prompts. And of course, there will be timestamps to everything down below, so you can skip around the video if you feel like it, but let's now jump into it. Okay, so we're going to start.
And then he's straight in. But there was also some visual cues of like lots of things going on that he's going to talk about.
Yeah, let me talk about some of the elements that was going on over here. One of the things that we were considering is most people's baseline understanding of AI is ChatGPT. And so we really want to put emphasis on some of the AI tools, some of the AI coaching elements that he has tried that's not ChatGPT. Another thing was we did some analysis and we found that there was some skepticism from people like, could AI really replace a therapist? Can it really replace a human? And so we really wanted to have Ali endorse that it's surprisingly good.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually tell you why it's surprisingly good. The other thing is, you'll notice for this video, what we were trying to do is shrink our intros from 1 minute, 30 seconds down to 30 seconds. Like, how can we really respect the viewer's time and then get straight into the video? So the example for this hook wasn't actually following a script. We gave a script to Ali and he ultimately saw that and he decided to take some of his elements and do it in his own style. Sometimes it's quite hard to get the speaker's tone of voice and they'll want to do it in their own way, but that's okay. It's like a happy medium in the way you land. And then what we can do afterwards is once we have the edit inside Frame.io, then we can go through ahead of time and be like, okay, let's remove this, let's remove that. Maybe if we had a voiceover line, we could actually just bridge these two things together and be a much cleaner hook. And so only then you can start trying and experimenting and then seeing what would be a better hook overall.
I think I get that now. So I've basically got idea, title, thumbnail, hook, then the detail of the hook, establishing credibility, making a promise, maybe putting in some retention techniques. What else makes an Ali Abdaal video so successful? What else am I missing from this?
Ali's unfair advantage is that he is a good storyteller and a good teacher, and people feel very drawn to him. The style and the way in which he teaches, he's very authentic. He's willing to wear his heart on his sleeve. I think that's been a pattern, a theme since his early days. And so as his channel has grown and as he's approached bigger and bigger video topics, he's never really shied away from those principles. I still remember one of his viral videos around how much money I made as a YouTuber in a year, where he'd sit down in front of camera for 45 minutes and he would go into the nitty-gritty details of his revenue, where it's coming from, his costs, all these other things. And a lot of his audience find that very refreshing. They can connect with it. They find it aspirational. And nobody at that time was doing that type of education.
Yeah.
I think to this day, when Ali sits down to do the scripting and to figure out the videos, he will go to a cafe, he'll get a coffee, he'll get his notepad and pen, and he'll write down like, so if I was teaching someone else, how, like, and we were here and we're having coffee, how might I approach it? Well, first of all, we got to start with this, and I go over there, and maybe there's a personal anecdote here, and and recently in the channel, you will notice there's been a lot more honest advice type videos because it really leans into Ali's unfair advantage of being able to teach in that kind of way. And especially in a YouTube landscape where everything is super highly polished, people are leaning into retention editing, it's no longer an unfair advantage to have the rotoscope with the text coming behind your head. Having something where you can yin rather than yang is being able to lean into your unfair advantage of being a storyteller and doing it authentically and honestly.
Interesting. Yeah, because he's very charismatic and there's kind of feels very soft and safe and friendly and kind of feels like he's letting you in. Even in the way that he's kind of leaning in the set on the desk, it's kind of it kind of feels like he's letting you in.
Yeah, another example of a creator who's done this really well is Nisha.
Yes.
Nisha has this golden touch where any video she makes right now seems to blow up, and she has great personality. She has a great relationship with her audience. She's willing to be authentic, honest, vulnerable, and she has a very beginner-friendly audience with like massive TAM, massive value proposition. For anyone thinking, how could they recreate that success? I do think being in front of camera is a skill. It's definitely a skill you can learn. My advice to most of the entrepreneurs that I work with who are trying to build profitable YouTube channels through world-class content is telling them that you can't create the world-class content if it's like not authentic to who you are. And it's really hard to do that through scripted content. And so instead, I get them to do talking points for all of their videos. There is something that you're an expert in. There's something that you know enough about that you could riff off a few stories. You could tell me from the heart how you'd approach a certain thing. What is the skeleton structure of that? And if we work back from the title, thumbnail, and a hook of that particular video, and we have those talking points, so we know you're going in the right direction and you finish at the right finish line, I don't really care how you deliver it. Just deliver it how Callum would deliver it. And then you're going to sit there in the chair and you're going to think, oh yeah, so how would I deliver about it? Oh yeah, so I first started out in this. Okay, so to understand this, I want to start with this. And then you can go into the video that way. Over time, you also get better at not blabbering and saying too much. And you can be a lot more concise. But leaning into your authentic energy, being able to show up as your true self and being able to teach. Everyone has a different style, but that's always a really good starting point.
Yeah, I definitely see that in Nisha's content, Ali's content. And then even someone like Hormozy, like it is him. It's more direct and straight, but it's definitely him. And I've definitely seen that where people try to actually then just script the whole thing because they think that's what they're meant to do. And then it feels very robotic and it's not really them. Ship every week. That's really important, right? Is that the other kind of part of Ali's process here, which is it's all about constraints and consistency. Is that right?
Yeah, I was teaching on the part-time YouTuber Academy for the 2 years when I worked on the team. And one of the principles behind that academy is posting a YouTube video every single week. And if you posted a YouTube video every single week for a year, Ali's promise is that you would be able to change your life, or the YouTube channel will lead to some really interesting and cool things, some opportunities. Maybe the channel blows up, but you have to like post a video every single week. And when I was speaking to a lot of students, the ones who were posting every single week had the most interesting results. Either they drove revenue to their channels, or they blew up their audiences and they're able to do music for full time and to replace their jobs. It just led to so many interesting opportunities. I think the reason why is because people sometimes think YouTube video is all the technical things, it's the strategy things, it's the writing things, but actually it's also the emotional things. In your first 10 videos, it's really hard to look and stare into the camera knowing that this thing is going to be on the internet and everyone's going to see it, you're going to be judged for it, all of that kind of stuff. And so having the consistency, being able to flex the muscle, being able to practice your storytelling, being able to practice your title thumbnail hooks, how you're making it better each time, how you're adjusting the studio, the more shots you have on goal, the better you're going to get in a shorter amount of time. Some people have come to me and said, like, Saf, what about 2 videos a week? If you can do 2 videos a week, great. But it's really hard to do 1 video a week. And if you can do 2 videos a week, sometimes I'll encourage you to create a back catalog of videos so you have some space to be able to really dive into like, okay, what's the next video is going to be about? It's really impressive if I speak to someone and they say, I've done a video a week for a year. That's a really interesting person to talk to. They're actually in the arena.
Of the successful ones, was it just consistency that won out, or was there anything else?
So I think probably the honest answer is, like with a lot of these programs, a lot of people take them thinking that they want to become a YouTuber. And they might have had like a life change where they've decided YouTube is the thing I want to try and I want to do. And maybe for like 60% of them, they realize after doing YouTube that actually it's not for them. And that realization can take a long time. And so of the remaining people, the ones that actually stayed consistent, the ones that actually realized they enjoyed the process of YouTube and they're willing to show up every week and they're talking about topics that they love, or even if it's not topics that they love, they found a way to enjoy the process. Those are the ones that tend to succeed.
So it's like validating, like, is it just like a nice idea they've got, or this dream idea of a life they've got, versus like, actually, do you actually enjoy it? Or can you get to a process where it's sustainable? It's
really, really hard to make it. And that's why we come back to the system I was saying earlier. The system is designed to help you to ship 1 video per week, but also do it without the stress. You have visibility, everything's vetted, it's gone through a process. So it doesn't feel like this whimsical thing.
And if I am shipping every week, what should I be tracking?
Before someone launches a YouTube channel, one of the first questions that they tend to ask me is, what is going to be the strategy for the YouTube channel? And I always find that question's a bit of a red herring, because if you haven't launched the videos yet, you can spend ages coming up with a strategy, but the strategy goes out the window when you throw stuff at the wall and the stuff that's sticking isn't what you expect it to stick.
Yeah.
And so quite often my advice would be to create videos, the first 10 to 20 videos. Sure, do some research, but don't painstakingly decide on the strategy, because it's just going to change. But after 20 videos, that's when you can start to look at the data and see what's sticking out to you. So you can look at the most basic thing, which is views. You can look at things like your click-through rate. You can look at things such as your average view duration. You can also look at the comments, and they can be interesting. And again, you can look at other channels in your niche, or even in other niches, but you're looking at outliers. And if you bring all of those different things together, ideally your strategy is a set of content pillars that you know you can deliver on, where you're already starting to see content audience fit.
And what's the highest leverage of those?
I think the highest leverage out of all of those is your AVD.
Okay.
I think it's your AVD.
Why is that?
So I think that's the case because YouTube wants to keep people on their platform for longer, and they want to encourage binge sessions.
Yeah.
And the best way that they know how to do that is by looking at videos that people feel satisfied by watching.
Right.
So average view duration is one of the many metrics that they'll be looking at to promote videos. It's not quite as simple as that, because there is the other half of the equation, which is getting people to click in the first place. And it's really important to get that right. But I often find if you can build a video with a good ABD, it's got a really good value proposition, people want to stick around. Hopefully the packaging downstream of that is something that will have to make sense with that ABD in the first place. Another way to put it is you could spend ages polishing a turd, where you have an idea and you've gone to an agency, you've gone to design your thumbnail, you've A/B tested it, and it's like, this is like an absolutely gorgeous thumbnail, but the ABD is really low because the TAM is really low because the idea isn't that appealing. One of my friends approached me and he said, Saf, I would love for you to help me do some packaging and like a hook review for a video we're making. And I was like, sure, I'd be happy to do it. And the video was about how war zones create modern day technology. It was like how the wars going on in the world right now with like drones is actually the same drones they're using at Amazon. And so after doing a lot of the keyword research, after looking on YouTube, after looking around, there were very few examples of that type of video doing very well. And so the angle became really hard to spin, and we tried so many different things. Then we were like, okay, let's not give away Warzone in the title. Let's save that. It's like the secret thing. And like you're sort of concealing it as a retention piece. And we were kind of moving the CTR, but really the AVD was super low and it wasn't ever going to be as high as it could be.
Just a quick thing. If you're enjoying this episode with Saf, I'm going to put a breakdown of all of the frameworks we ran through in the episode in my next email newsletter. You can get a copy at the link in the description. So how do I get a high AVD?
Well, the easy way is to have a longer video in the first place.
Yeah.
But the trouble with just having a longer video is you might find that your retention drops very quickly. And so it's important to look at your retention charts to see if making a longer video is indeed going to be the right thing. For talking head educational videos, which is a thing that I spend all my time looking at, more often than not, it's about going deeper and teaching. Right. How are you going to show rather than tell?
Yeah.
So instead of having a listicle of 10 things, you look at a retention chart and you can see the spikes where people like go to the different 10 things.
Yeah.
How can you actually show people and how can you teach them and how can you the thing you want to get is like reassure the viewer. If you skip ahead, you're going to miss this key lesson, which I need to show you first for that to make sense. And so if there is a way that you can incorporate more of that into your educational videos, the more likely you're going to have someone go, oh, great, look, this is my lunchtime viewing. Let's full screen it. Let's eat. I might 2x speed it or 1.5x speed it, but I'm paying attention.
What about comprehension level in all this? Like if I want to go deeper, does that mean I go more detailed? Because I think one of the other things that Ali does really nicely is break down topics so they're accessible to a lot of people. Is there a balance there that I shouldn't go too detailed, or should I just embrace that? You said something interesting about like TAM there and like with Nisha kind of almost being beginner level. And you obviously work with clients who are mostly like entrepreneurs or founders. So would you encourage them to think about the level that their audience are going to find easy to understand and go broader versus like going niche on topics?
Yeah, that's a really important thing that we try and do. It's translating what that founder's vision is into language that's more accessible to the general public.
Yeah.
And so the sweet spot is finding a value proposition that appeals to this like ideal customer profile who they want to reach. But if you want to do well on YouTube, you also have to reach a wider audience. So how could you bring both of them in?
Yeah.
And so we made a video about how to run a business in like 3 hours per week or something like that. And it was called the CEO dashboard.
Yeah.
And this video was appealing to $10 million entrepreneurs who actually needed a CEO dashboard to run a business.
Yeah.
And people who are just interested in how the hell do you run a $10 million business using a dashboard? Maybe there are some lessons that I can learn from that.
Interesting.
And so my friend Callum has a term called insider baseball.
Yeah.
And so some topics, if they are too niche and they're too technical, the terms are too insider baseball. It just goes over people's heads. So how can you translate that and make it more accessible to more people? And so even using the term system, that could be too detailed and too niche. It depends on the sort of audience that you're going after, but you want to try and simplify things as much as you possibly can. And so yes, the devil's in the details and it can really help depending on the value proposition of the video, depending on what you're breaking down. But it's also really important that you can deliver on that value proposition, do it in a simple way, and at least ladder up to the technical terms. At least, like Hormozi very rarely goes into the technical formulas for some of the business stuff that he does. And I've seen him do it like My First Million. And that, for the right audience, like that's insider baseball. And they're going to love that video. But for his own audience, he's chosen not to lean into it. He'd make it as simple as he possibly can.
So how long ago did you leave Ali?
I left about 9 months ago now.
Okay, interesting. And then a few months later, he texted you, right?
Yeah, he texted me about 4 or 5 months later and asked, would I be open to helping him out on the channel? And this was like 4 or 5 months after I'd left. And I've already started my own business, and that's something that's always been a personal ambition of mine. So I agreed to hop on a call, and he became a client of the business rather than me going back full time, which was a nice way to be able to help him like 2 days a week on strategy, thumbnails, hooks, those types of things.
And why did he call you?
I think ultimately we had a few departures from the team in a short amount of time. And these are people who'd been on the team for like 2 years or longer. And he wanted to have some expertise on how to set the channel direction, what's going on behind the numbers. And I offered to go in and do a full audit with him. And it was like this massive 30-page document. We looked at AVD, click-through rates, audience demographics. We looked at other niches. And we had raw numbers that we were able to attribute to a lot of different things. We had hypotheses that we were testing. And by the end of this document, we had the top 3 content pillars, which did well for Ali and his audience. And it was like, don't waste time on these other things because we notice you have, and they can feel like they're adding value. But really, if you just focus on like money, book club, and like this one other thing, you'd actually do very well.
Interesting.
And at the end of that call, at the end of that insight, that was like the opening piece I delivered to him. He was like, what's the next step? Like, how can we now build on this? And that's where me and my team came in to, it was mostly me, to be honest. I have a personal relationship with him, and I'm very passionate about the work. So I said, look, I'd be happy to help you. We were doing a lot of stuff in YouTube Studio for this, but really you had to export all of the data points from YouTube Studio, bring it into Google Sheets, then export the data from Notion, bring that into Google Sheets. You had to match it up and then run like pivot tables to really like understand like what's working and why. And we were looking at not just the views and the click-through rate and the ABD, but we were looking at the impressions. We were looking at retention curves as it relates to different duration of videos. We were overlaying them. We were looking for patterns and trends. So we went really, really deep. I don't know if I'm allowed to share like some of the insights from this analysis.
That's okay. But we can. Let's talk.
Sure.
And then like let's see what we're comfortable with sharing.
Sure. Cool.
But yeah, what did you find?
Okay, so
because I think that's really interesting, especially thinking around like what you're going to focus on next, and also what you should just stop doing. Yes.
We noticed that views were down 33% year over year on the channel at the time of the analysis, and average view duration was down by 9% or 36 seconds. The other thing we noticed is that over the last 90 days, we were 81% down on new viewers when we removed the back catalog from the data. It can really skew the data when you include a very successful back catalog that's growing over time.
Yeah.
And so some of these videos from 2023, 2024, my evidence-based skincare routine, how to invest 2023, those types of videos did very well, and they continued to carry the channel for a period of time. But they're going to have a drop-off, and we were starting to see that drop-off. And so it was really interesting to see, okay, once we isolate for that, how is the channel performing as it relates to new viewers and returning viewers? The other thing we noticed was that packaging had been weaker in the 3 or 4 months after Tintin had left the channel versus before. We came up with a bunch of recommendations for how we could help to improve retention by working on the hooks. And we also came up with better packaging ideas. Instead of Ali and just some simple text, what are some ways that we could see some better value? One of my favorite thumbnails that we worked on was how to make time for everything, which is Ali surrounded by these calendar blocks, and he's like holding one of the calendar blocks and it says time inside of it. And the other thing was like, how can we focus on bigger ideas with higher value propositions? So the different buckets that we ranked were personal development, money club, and productivity. Those were the 3 buckets which did very well for him. Honest advice, which was a category of video, we had one outlier, which did really, really well. But when we removed that, actually the other honest advice videos weren't performing as well as we thought it would have done. And the book club wasn't performing as well as it could have done either.
Interesting.
And so we ended up revisiting this analysis, and we were tagging in different ways. We were isolating different things and looking at different effects. But really we found money, personal development, and productivity were the 3 things which, if Ali could only make 4 videos in a month, if you made it on those 4 videos, you are more likely to drive an uplift in views to that channel than if it wasn't anything else.
Very interesting.
But the other things, as it happens, are lower lift and easier to film, because Ali said already a lot of the same things on those topics. So that's where we sort of try and work with him to come up with the videos that he wants to make.
So going forward, the advice is like focus on those 3 pillars.
That was the advice. Yes, that was the advice. It actually turned out not to work out this way.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because we were talking about earlier how Ali has like innovated with the channel and just taking different directions.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a visionary, you have a gut instinct about what's drawing your attention. And he recently made a decision to pivot towards financial freedom videos and helping people to achieve financial freedom. It's not that far away from Money Club, but with this focus, there was a new format called Freedom Fridays that he wanted to introduce. And on Freedom Fridays, he takes questions from his audience about financial freedom and how he can help them to reach it. Now, knowing that these 3 categories pull the most views, but then also knowing that's the new direction for the channel, it led to like a change in strategy, which was more led by vibes, qualitative data, and basically really like innovating on a slightly new format that he hadn't tried yet before. When working with Ali, we try and give him as many options as we can, because he's very much led on his energy, his personal energy. Because at the end of the day, he's the one that's showing up and he has to film and takes a lot of work. And so at the very least, when you give him the option of a video in one of those buckets or something that he can film, he has the option to film one or the other. And provided that I'm explaining the trade-off to him and what it means, I'm doing my job as a strategist, and then I can take whatever he's filmed and we can polish it to make it the best video we possibly can.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might mean coming back and saying, let's re-record the hook. Sometimes it might mean, I'm not sure that this is going to do very well. Do you still want to publish it? Like we've looked at the A-roll, but maybe repurposing a talk from something you gave at an entrepreneur's conference isn't going to be the best format for YouTube. What would it look like if you sat in the studio and you explained certain bits and we like added it in? And so one of the team members, Holly, her job is to do exactly that, where she will go through footage, like the multiple camera angles, and she'll find like questions from the audience, Ali's response to it, and then like what would he say in the studio to like facilitate the teaching as we go through like one chapter to the next chapter to the next chapter.
Well, he's a successful entrepreneur now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like he's got all of these different businesses. I don't know what the revenue is now, but he doesn't need to do YouTube to the same level he used to, I'm guessing, because his email list is so strong, his audience is so strong, and actually having a smaller audience of the right type of people might translate better to his products and services that he's offering.
Absolutely.
It is a really interesting topic, this, which is Ali is ultimately just an entrepreneur on YouTube, right? Well, artist, creator, entrepreneur. And that's kind of who you work with now, right? Is generally entrepreneurs. And there seems to be this trend of Hormozi, Dan Martell, all of these kind of big entrepreneurs, Cody Sanchez, coming to YouTube and starting to play on YouTube. If you've got a client who's really successful, I think he's going all in on YouTube, right? What do you see in the YouTube landscape going forward? Like it feels like it's changing, and a lot of people have woken up to the opportunity of YouTube to grow their business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I started on YouTube when I was about 10 years old, and I had a YouTube channel before YouTube was acquired by Google. And I was making tech videos about Mac OS X Lion and like the iPhone 3G and all these types of things. And back then, I think people can romanticize like the old YouTube, which is a bit more pure. There are two really big disruptions that I'm seeing at the moment in the YouTube landscape. The introduction of AI into YouTube videos. But the second one is like the commercialization of YouTube. YouTube is now increasingly seen as a way to make passive income and a profit engine. And regular people who want a lifestyle business, who aspire to quit the 9-to-5, definitely see that. But increasingly, so do brands and so do entrepreneurs. And so there are examples like Red Bull who have taken to YouTube and seen massive success. Zoe, are they on YouTube as well?
Yeah, they're a huge channel, yeah.
Absolutely blowing up. And I'm now working with a series of $10 million plus entrepreneurs who are also identifying that organic YouTube is the new frontier of marketing now that paid ads have become increasingly expensive, increasingly competitive. So I definitely, like, as someone who has a lot of love for the game and has also this entrepreneurial mindset, I feel very privileged and lucky that YouTube is in a situation where it's blending these two worlds. My hot take is probably that you have to embrace the changes. You have to embrace AI and you have to embrace the commercialization. It's going to happen anyway. How do you build the YouTube videos that you want to see out there on the internet? And so that's a lot of my job. It's teasing the insights from these entrepreneurs. I feel so lucky we live in a world where you can hear from Sam Altman and his thoughts week by week, his reflections on how AI is developing. If we lived in a world 20 years ago and you had an entrepreneur of that same caliber, you would have to be in a mastermind or in the same room to hear from them. We often see screenshots like Steve Jobs' emails and things, and we're like, oh, this is how he thought about it and stuff that he implied. If Steve Jobs were alive today, he'd be on so many podcasts and we'd be able to like learn so much from what he's talking about.
It is incredible. But why are they going all in on YouTube? Do you see some of the results behind the curtain? Like, are there some examples you can give of your clients or people you see, the businesses that it's driving?
For a business, if they wanted to get a view from their ideal customer, they might have to run a paid ad to do that. And there's going to be a cost associated with it. And they'll have to pay it to Facebook or they'll have to pay it to Google. It could be $1 or it could be $2. So if you had 1,000 views, you can see how very quickly it gets very expensive to surface your ad or, you know, your marketing material to that person. YouTube unlocks, or even LinkedIn unlocks an opportunity to be able to reach that same audience in an organic way through content. And so if you get it right for an entrepreneur, you can create a marketing engine where you're getting thousands and thousands and thousands of impressions every week on autopilot with this evergreen back catalog of videos. The kicker is, and this is the thing that I really work with entrepreneurs around, is you can't make videos that are disguised ads. It's a completely different game. Your audience will see through it. You want to build trust, you want to build authenticity, and you actually want to help them, and you want to lead with free value. And so what are the different ways that I can convince the entrepreneur to like part with their wisdom and to actually get it and to show up in that way? And the ones who do are the ones that see the best results, because the YouTube algorithm loves it, the audience loves it. Suddenly they're getting invited to different events. They're opening up. One of the clients I work with, on the second video we made for him, it went viral, and he had so many leads that he had to turn down all the ones that were international. He had 30,000 leads coming per month to his business.
Wow.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue.
That's crazy.
And that's where the light bulb moment happened. It was like, right, we're onto something.
30,000 leads.
Yeah, something like 30,000 leads a month. And we're talking about like, this is a high ticket offer as well. This isn't like a low ticket offer.
That's crazy. So how do you get those kind of results? It's just the same process we talked about earlier.
It's the same process that we talked about earlier. Ultimately, you just need to make good content. And I think traditional media companies, when they were using paid ads, it's really easy to disguise bad content behind conversion metrics.
Yeah.
And you could put spend behind anything and you could start to see like a 2% conversion rate, a 3% conversion rate. But it's not a very authentic way necessarily of connecting with your audience. And so with YouTube, it's like the great equalizer. If your video is bad, it's just not going to do very well.
Yeah.
So how do you create great organic content in the niche that you're passionate about? And I'm obsessed with productivity and entrepreneurship. And when I wake up, I'm watching YouTube videos. I do it for a living. In my lunch break, I'm looking at different videos. Then in my evening, I'm on YouTube Studio. So when I'm working with the entrepreneurs, it's like, look, there is a lot of wisdom that I've heard you share privately. That how can we get that into a YouTube video?
Yeah.
How can we share it? And how can we have enough shots on goal that you have a video take off? And that's the one video per week thing that we come back to.
Quick one. If you're enjoying this episode with Saf and you want to learn more from him, he's dropping a lot of knowledge on his LinkedIn. And so I would love it if you go over and connect with him. The AI thing's really interesting. How do you stand out in a world of AI? Like, is it the talking head video now? Or is it like, I personally find myself watching a lot of vlogs, but they're kind of like semi-educational founder entrepreneurship style vlogs where it's kind of like I can sit down on a Sunday and watch it and relax, but I'm also learning. What's your take on kind of AI and standing out and how that impacts things?
One of the things I've noticed with AI is the speed at which trends come and go has only increased. People can copy thumbnail formats very quickly with AI tools now. Video ideas get copied like the week after they start to pop off. One of my friends, Simon Ong, he made a video along the lines of, I'm 45. Here's the advice to someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
And it was just him, and it was like straight up advice, and he just like dropped knowledge bombs.
Yeah.
Like a week after, 2 weeks after, you started to see other people like Dango make a video about it, and like everybody made that format. And if you got in at the right time, that was the thing which earned the scroll stop, and people would want to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with Simon Squibb. It was like 30 years of sales knowledge in 1 hour and 36 minutes. Absolutely blew up. And then everybody under the sun decided to copy it as well. So AI tools are making it much easier to copy other people and to copy trends much more quickly. So the rate of innovation is only speeding up. And so your adaptability as a YouTuber and your ability to ship very quickly is only going to increase. And that's why it's really important to have help. It's not always the case, and solo entrepreneurs can make it, especially if they have that love of the game. But the stakes have never been higher, and it's never been easier and simultaneously harder to stand out on YouTube.
So basically the lesson is be very quick, iterate quickly, jump on trends quickly. And do you think about the setting or anything like that? Like, or again, I guess like that personal connection in driving that connection with the audience and then to come back next week versus someone who's clearly just like regurgitating like an AI script copy of someone else's video word for word?
Yeah. The second half of the answer on the AI thing, even though the YouTube landscape is now much faster than it's ever been before, there's definitely a shift towards honest, authentic content where you can connect with your audience. And for a period of time, I used to think that the talking head format is no longer a competitive advantage. Everyone can show up in that way. Everyone can have like the full screen titles and stuff like that. So we're going to see a new type of YouTube video. But to play devil's advocate to that, actually, the talking head format is one of the few formats where you can really connect with your audience. You can keep it really raw. Vlog is another way to be able to do that. And it's another way to be able to stand out and really connect with people and to build that personal relationship. And in a world of AI, I only think that's going to become increasingly important. And I'm already seeing lots of in-person events and lots of in-person activity with YouTubers and people who have YouTube channels being a big driver of community through those videos. And so the game is changing in ways which they're unfolding right now, which we're going to have to see sort of how it plays out. But I do see the authenticity angle being key in the AI era.
Why did you leave Ali Abdaal? And why does everyone leave Ali Abdaal?
Yeah. It's a bit, I don't know. Where do we start? So my personal motivation for leaving the team, it was a really, really hard decision. I still remember the day when I had decided to do it. It wasn't that straightforward. And I actually called Ali and I said, could we go for a walk around the park? I just want to talk it through with you. He had no idea what I was going to say, but when I sort of explained, like, this is what I'm thinking about, we went for this walk around the park. And by the end of the walk and talk, Ali was like, you should go and start your own business. Like, that you should absolutely, if I was in your shoes, I would do that. And to have a boss who's encouraging of you to go after the thing that you really want meant the world. So it was a very difficult decision. It's the best job I've ever had. It's a group of friends that I still stay in touch with. And I attribute a lot of the YouTube success that I'm finding right now to the experience I had in those 2 years. But my personal motivation was, I've been entrepreneurial ever since I was like 10 or 11 years old. I sold my Xbox to get some seed money to buy some chickens to keep in my garden. These chickens would lay eggs. And as this cute 11-year-old, I'd take these eggs, put it in my mum's Tesco cartons, go to school. I'd rave to my teachers about how my omelets are the most yellow omelets you'd find because I grow them myself. And they're like, no way. And I was like, look at my eggs. They don't even have the markings on them with the expiry date. This is like an actual organic egg and I grew it. They're like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm selling it. And they goes, no way. It's £1 an egg. And I used to sell a carton of eggs at school for £6. And every morning I'd go to my 3 chickens and find more eggs if I hadn't eaten it at that point.
That's amazing.
So entrepreneurship has always been something that's been in my DNA from a young age. And I always knew at some point I wanted to give it a go. It was just about finding the alignment about the thing that I was passionate about. And so at the same time as doing the entrepreneurship thing at young age, I was also coming home from school and video editing and spending a lot of time in After Effects. I'd follow these tutorials from a guy called Andrew Kramer, a video co-pilot. And I'd learn, how do we build like GFX and how do we like overlay muzzle flares on Nerf guns? Me and my best friend would make these videos in our back garden. And the combination of those 2 things, I never thought would cross paths in the way it has. And only in the last year and a half has that really started to click. And I've really been able to lean into my unfair advantages and where I feel I can show up in the most natural and authentic way. And that has what led to this business idea. It wasn't like this very forced thing that happened. It was a very organic, natural progression.
And what's the business?
So I run a YouTube agency that helps founder-led businesses to build a profitable YouTube channel. But the way we do it is always through world-class content, and specifically the talking head educational content.
So basically, if someone wants an Ali Abdaal style channel, they come to you.
Exactly.
And why is it that everyone leaves Ali? Is it just that he's very open about entrepreneurship and starting a business, and so you end up being inspired? Or because you obviously were very entrepreneurial, but are there other people in the team who were entrepreneurial, or do you just kind of learn it through osmosis and then decide to pursue it? Because there seems to be like 5 or 6 people who have left recently, and they've all seemed to have pursued something.
Yeah, I think I mean, a lot of people do leave YouTubers all the time. And it's like the Vox videos of people, I've left Vox to start my own thing, has become a bit of a thing as well. So I imagine it's probably quite normal after 2 years that people want a change of scenery, and maybe like the average duration you stay in a job looks something like that. But like the specific quirks of working in that team is that Ali teaches the principles of entrepreneurship, personal development, being able to build a lifestyle business. He embodies a lot of the ideals that people who come into the team want to be able to have one day, the time freedom, the financial freedom. And he even coaches them to do that while they're full-time employees. So it's only natural that over time, even the people who are not that entrepreneurial and have the tiny spark, they kind of like embrace that spark, and it turns into a little flame, and that turns into a fire. And at some point in the future, they might decide, I would love to try my own thing. And the beautiful thing about the way we ended our like full-time employment contract was that I was going to go off and try the business stuff. And Ali said, if you want a job afterwards, you can come back and have a job. Like, I would love to work with you, because the version of Saf who has done the 2 years with me and then gone off to start a business and failed or decided to have a change of heart is going to be infinitely better than the one that just stayed with me for 2 years, 3 years, just carrying on doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so there is a real alignment even in leaving the team. And I think that's true for everyone else who's gone as well.
So what are those things that you learned from him? So you talk about time freedom, financial freedom. Like, what does he have time freedom? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me, I think this is true for Stephen Bartlett as well, as Ali, is the speed of execution and how quickly he's able to come up with things. And in the YouTube video I made about this, I was talking about this example of how we were at an offsite in Portugal. And I had the idea for a video editing course.
Yeah.
And we took this Uber journey home where he was like, should we make the course right now? Should we go through it?
Yeah.
And I was like, right, what do you mean? Right, we need a half an hour. We need to like set up some time next week. Or we can just do it right now. And I was like, okay, fine, let's just do it right now. In the Uber, he was like, we're coming up with the offer, we're coming up with the unique mechanism, we're coming up with like the lesson structure, all of these different things, bouncing ideas. I was like super energetic. I was like, suddenly it didn't have to be this big thing that needed like half an hour next week. We could just go and do it now. And that's been true for so many different things along the way that I've now started to like, that's one of the biggest lessons I've taken away is like the speed of execution and thinking about now, not how. I'm sure it's true for many people, but it's true for myself. It's just really easy to overthink like, how am I going to do this thing?
Yeah.
When you can just do it now. And just saying a statement as simple as that might not shift things for you, but the more you practice it and the more you see other people do it and the more you surround yourself with people who have the now, not how mindset, the more it rubs off on you and the more you can take on more of that into your life.
That's very cool. Are there any other lessons you've taken from him?
The Ali that shows up on camera is the same as the Ali in real life. And I wasn't expecting that to be the case. He, like whenever we would run a function, whether it be a work thing or a social thing, it's always open up to everyone. Everyone's welcome and everyone's valued and everyone's contribution matters. And I really admired that. And that's definitely something that I've taken on because I think it's really easy to get to a level of success and have an inner circle and an inner ring, a level of exclusivity. But ever since I've left that team, I've really taken it upon myself to bring together YouTube strategists, YouTube people working behind the scenes, connecting with people like yourself, having more conversations, more dinners, and making London more of a hub. And I definitely have never been that socially like pioneering until like after I learned those lessons from Ali for sure. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things on my professional development that I can definitely attribute to my time.
I'm excited to announce that this episode is sponsored by my own business, 7X Content. We create amazing video podcasts for world-class brands and creators. So if you'd like to create your own podcast or you need help growing your existing one, then you can find us at 7xcontent.com. What about the leverage thing here and the creating content thing? Because you're starting an agency and a service business.
Yeah,
so
let's talk about it.
How do you think about content and your business evolving? Because I imagine when I look at Ali, I think that a lot of his stuff is highly optimized for time, whereas the service business can be pretty time intensive and it's like one for one. Do you have any thoughts on that or how you market the business?
Yeah, I have loads of thoughts on this. So during my time with Ali, I started as a video editor for 2 or 3 months and then I got itchy feet and I wanted to make more impact. So I became the head of post-production where I was hiring video editors and managing them and then making sure that would go out on different content verticals. I didn't realize that job role was actually doing an internal agency just within the constraints of a full-time salary and like the security in a team. After about 6 to 9 months of doing that, I then worked as a creative director and helping out with things like on the book that he was creating at that time. And then I worked in sales and marketing, and that was doing a job called RevOps and bringing in a CRM called HubSpot and how we can do organic marketing attribution with some of the paid stuff that we're doing. So there was like, I took this really long like journey. And when I got towards the end of that journey, we were coming up with a new offer, and it was going to be, how can we help people to grow YouTube channels? We'll just do it for them. And we did, the team did try something with a brand called Hey Friends. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
With Hunter. And it didn't work out for various reasons. And so we were like exploring what would be the simplest way to be able to launch the same offer, because I'm sure lots of people would be interested to do it. And so I put my hand up to be the person to try and like pioneer that new business and see like, how can we take it from 0 to 1? Because that really excited me. And so we started working with another guy called Ryan Dice and helping him grow his YouTube channel. And that went surprisingly well. But in that period of time, it comes back to your point earlier, which is Ali optimizes for the time freedom. I think he very quickly realized it's a lot of work to be able to scale something like that. And so he was comparing, maybe $1 million in revenue would require the same team size he has now, but they're capable of doing 5 or 10. It's less, overhead. It's a lot simpler. So he ended up scrapping the idea. But actually throughout the whole experience, it freaking lit me up to be able to work on that. And I really enjoyed it. And that's when I realized I had all of this experience doing an internal agency. I had a very good network of video editors and thumbnail designers and people who needed my help. They were all asking for help and I'd reject it because I was working a full-time job. And so that's where this natural transition happened, where I went into freelancing, and then one client led to a second client through a referral, which led to a third client through a referral, which led to a fourth client through a referral. And the crazy thing is I used to think the agency business model was like the worst business model ever. Mm. It's the one that like you're going to pull your hair out. It's going to be most stressful. It's going to be the worst. You're trading your time for money. But actually I found it to be the most rewarding and fulfilling one because I still enjoyed doing the work and I still love YouTube. And there was a way that I could still show up and bring my knowledge and strengths and skills and bring that into the world and also work one-on-one with people I admire. And I have a really high bar for the people that I work with for that reason, because I want that agency business model to be boutique. I want it to be fun. And I think that the first business you start is going to be different to the second, to the third, to the fourth. And so it's very limiting to have to get it right first time of asking.
And you're a fan of Nathan Barry's levels of wealth creation
I
as
am,
well.
yeah.
So
it's a great
you've
framework.
got to tick the first box, which is the service business, and then we might move on to SaaS or product.
Exactly.
That's super cool.
Over the last 6 to 9 months of working with brands and personal brands, something I've noticed is that YouTube is the platform that just keeps on growing. And there are so many stats you can see that it's growing faster than Netflix and all the other streaming platforms and traditional media. It's just the force that, it can't be reckoned with. It's just so strong. Now, a lot of the streaming platforms have tried to bring YouTubers onto their streaming platforms. And you got like Beast Games and Molly May had a documentary, The Sidemen. And they're trying to use it as a way to acquire new customers for their streaming platforms. But what happens is that and I know this because a friend of mine used to work on these streaming platforms, is they come to the streaming platforms, they subscribe for the month, and then they leave. They go back to YouTube because they're YouTube native.
Yeah.
In my experience in working with these brands over the last 6 to 9 months, the thesis I have is that at some point in the next 5 years, who knows exactly when, but those brands are going to have to move to YouTube. Instead of bringing YouTube to them, they will have to go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to help brands to do that today. But I have found it increasingly hard to get them to understand the value of the idea, title, thumbnail, and the hook. To be YouTube native and to be able to communicate in the format of YouTube is something which traditional brands don't always get. And I've had feedback from them being like, this thumbnail feels too Mr. Beast. And it's like, it's just a facial expression with a little bit of like a camera raw filter and some texture and stuff like that. And it's been really hard to get them to get the results that they need. I think in 5 years' time, you can see more examples of brands taking that leap over from traditional to new media. And it's going to become a lot more normal. And so I'm very excited to see that happen and to help people to take that leap across. And outside of like the Red Bulls who do get it and they manage to get it right, there's a lot of regular businesses that don't feel like that they can compete and quite have the same impact that they can have today. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out as part of the whole commercialization of YouTube. And I think I am very optimistic. I think, it's really easy to look at the past YouTube and really romanticize it, but there is a new era of YouTube. And I feel honored to be on the cutting edge of helping some of these brands and personal brands play a part and shape the direction of what YouTube is going to become over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest opportunity, isn't it? It's so slept on. I mean, the fact that it's the number one streaming app on smart TVs in the US is just unreal, unbelievable. And as you say, you can see like the TV companies and the streamers will probably have channels on there, but at the moment there's just this dearth of content. I think podcasting is really the first wave of, certainly the TV talent is now getting on YouTube and seeing the power of it. And so they've switched onto it. And there's a couple of brands who have switched onto it. But outside of podcasting, like actual YouTube first content, no one's really doing that yet. But I think there will be a lot of like 1 hour shows, 45-minute shows that we're watching weekly that are made by brands or creators or businesses. And yeah, at the moment, nobody's making that stuff. So it's like the next 2-3 years, that's where there's just this massive like blue ocean I see it at the moment. And you're just looking for like those couple of ambitious marketing leaders or whoever it is to go all in on it. And yeah, it's just blue ocean versus TV advertising or whatever that they're still throwing loads of money at, which is doing nothing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's doing something for them, but it's not the same.
Do you have like a bold thesis around podcasting over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's a great format, but I think again, I think all those kind of podcasters are gradually, well, they already are like gradually evolving into kind of, I don't even know what to call them, but yeah, shows or worlds where it started as a podcast and it's TV talent, but over time it will just go to video and it will just go to TV, but it'll be YouTube it will live on YouTube, and probably some of the big streamers like Amazon or Netflix will also pay for that to have it on their platforms, or they'll just be given it for free to go on those platforms. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it, and it's slowly but surely happening. We
were talking before the show about how job titles have like changed. Like every 5 years, there'll be a new product title you hadn't heard of from the 5 years before that, like product or RevOps or something like that. And I would be surprised if we don't start to see organic content and podcasting as full-time in-house roles at some of these big brands at some point in the future, once they realize that that's where the opportunity is. And it sounds kind of weird now, but right now there's a LinkedIn post doing the rounds, which is PayPal hiring the head of content of like $250,000. And everyone in the industry like, oh my God, it's absolutely insane. But in 5 years' time, that might be normal.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, for sure. I'm curious though on that. What's your opinion on like one channel? So let's say someone's doing multiple formats. Should they have separate channels, or do you think all on the same channel? Like Ali obviously has his talking head channel. He then has his podcast channel. He then has his vlog channel. Steven has the same. Like, do you advise people to do that, or do you think having it all on one channel is fine?
Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, when you see top YouTubers splitting it out, you'll naturally think that's the right thing to do. And I do agree, but maybe explaining the thesis behind why I think it's the right thing is going to sort of like pull the pieces together. For a YouTube channel, I like to think of it as they each have a channel statement. And the simplest channel statement is I help X to do Y. And that's the lens through which you're going to be adding value to that particular person in your audience. And so for a given channel, there will be some viewer wins you'll want them to have. It could be 5 viewer wins. It could be like, for people who are on my channel, the biggest win they can have is making, 6 figures a year, or it could be landing a job in tech. There's different viewer wins that you can have. And it probably makes sense to split out your channels when the channel statements start to diverge and it starts to be different. And so one of the most common channel splits I see amongst YouTubers, creators, personal brands is they will have the thing that made them really big in the first place, and then they'll have the business account because they got so good at doing what they do, they ended up doing a business channel, or maybe it's a YouTube channel, or maybe from my friend Shervin, he does his product reviews on a separate channel. And so there are different channel statements around both those different things. And then you treat them just as seriously as one another. But remember when you have more than one channel, it's twice as much work.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the people who are doing it, they're not doing that from day one. They're usually doing that at some point down the line.
But again, it all comes down to like, is the content delivering on the channel purpose and the channel wins? And if it's not, then it should be separate channel. Yeah,
because there's totally channels where you could have multiple formats and they're all in and around a certain topic, whether it is business or whether it is fitness. And that can all live on one channel and it can do perfectly well. But I wouldn't take the same channel and split it out arbitrarily because of format. If it all delivers on the same value proposition, it might make sense for that to live on the same channel.
I could talk for hours, man, but I think we've got to wrap it.
We have to do it somewhere.
We'll do another one in a bit of time, I'm sure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Saf. It's amazing. I think it's going to help so many people.
Amazing. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. If you enjoyed this episode with Saf, I recommend you go and check out my episode with Grace from the Diary of a CEO. It really builds on a lot of the same themes, and I think you'll find it really useful. So you can click on it above or find it on your podcast player as long as you're subscribed.